Hey, it's Rob Lightfoot, proud two-time alum of Rowan University.
And I'm Jessica Kennedy, also a two-time Rowan alum. And you're listening to
Beyond the Brown and Gold.
Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM presents Beyond the Brown and Gold, a show that highlights the lives and memories of Glassboro State and Rowan University alumni. Now, here are your hosts, Rob Lightfoot and Jessica Kennedy.
Jess, do you want to go gaming?
Sure. Were you expecting me to say no?
No, I was hoping
like, oh
you
no,
would,
did I trick
because
you?
that's going to get us into our today's guest.
Okay.
Right? Today's guest, Daniel Jones, 05. He's not a gamer himself. I'll let that cat out of the bag right now. But he works at Xbox. And before that, he's got one heck of a story.
He's got one heck of a story about growing up in South Jersey, how he had a little bit of a rebellious nature, a little bit more than some of us do.
He self-sabotages a lot.
Yeah, a little bit. But he did eventually make his way to Rowan to study computer science. And he's made quite a career out of it. It's been fun to follow his journey. And wait till you hear all the interesting places he worked and the timing of them. Let's see if you can figure out all the fun places that Dan had as a result of his career and how wonky the timing was. Good timing or bad timing? What do you think?
I think it was good timing.
Yeah, he liked the timing of them. I don't think I would have liked the timing of them, but he was fun. I love getting to have this opportunity to meet with our alums and just talk to them and hear all about them. What a cool job we have.
I know. This is what we do. Full-time almost.
Almost. Well, I think our bosses would like us to do other things, so we still do other things too. But enjoy Dan Jones. Well, welcome back from Key West. You just arrived home this morning.
Yeah, very, very early this morning.
Yeah, what happened there?
So the flight was supposed to come back. We're supposed to leave Key West at 5 p.m. and supposed to get back into Philly here. I think it was around 8 at night, 8:50 or something like that at night. And got delayed 6 hours. So instead, I got home almost 3 o'clock in the morning.
Brutal. Did you sleep on the plane at least? It's not a long
Not
flight.
really. I don't usually sleep very well on the planes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can sleep easy, so easy on the plane.
Yeah, I usually fall asleep for like the first hour, then I'm like, I guess I'm up.
And where's home?
Home, I live in South Jersey, in Evesham Township in Marlton.
That's where I grew up.
Okay.
Yep.
So not far from the airport.
not-
At least you didn't have a super long drive.
Yeah, especially that time of night. It was quick.
Quiet.
My wife drove because they wanted to stop at Wawa, and I was like, I can't. So I'm
What
gonna go
did
to
they
sleep.
want? It was like
God only knows. I said that's what I said to her. I'm like, what is everyone going to eat at 3 a.m?
something.
She said,
They're
"We gotta
probably
eat something."
starved.
My wife, we're both Italian, so of course everyone's got to get fed. She said these kids didn't have dinner, so of course.
I like her
Wawa got
already.
to
What's
become
her
dinner.
name? She's one of my people.
Dana.
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 Yeah.
We're in the witness protection program.
Oh, that's so funny.
Two
That's so
Italians.
funny.
Yeah.
So, Dan, we always have people submit like a bio, and I loved your bio because it was like an actual bio. Like, talk about a little bit about growing up. So, can we go back to like baby Dan
Oh man.
and growing up?
First
Dan?
words.
Yeah. First
I
words.
mean, it depends. Like, there's a lot of little things that have come up over the years, I guess. So this could be a very long story, but I'll do my best to keep it short.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I grew up in South Jersey. It's a small town, actually not too far from Glassboro, called Winona, right down the street.
My sister-in-law lives there.
Mantua Township. Yeah. Well, back then it's a lot nicer now. Like it was an area at the time we didn't grow up with a lot of money. Like I mentioned in my bio that my mom she was born in Italy,
Okay.
and so I'm first generation American on my mom's side, and I grew up mostly with my mom and my grandparents. So I had a immigrant kind of upbringing for my whole life. Which
Where
is
did you
fun.
go for good Italian food? Probably just your
Like,
mom and your grandparents,
my
right?
grandmother's house, yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty much my grandmother's house. All of the tomato sauce that she used for a long time was like homemade.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Do you eat tomato sauce?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
I'm just checking. It does count as like a fruit/vegetable. So I
Well,
was.
then guilty as charged.
Whoa! Look at you expanding your diet.
I grew up down there. We moved out of that town. I was about 11. We moved to Glassboro. So we
Okay.
actually lived here in town.
Oh, get out!
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I lived there until I moved out in my 20s after I was done college and everything. So, yeah.
So you had a little bit of a non-traditional path to get to Rowan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was one of those things that took me a little while to kind of cope with telling everyone because I have a bit of a rebellious spirit. And
Love it. Tell us more.
yeah, it
It sounds like you're little.
it was pushed on me from a little kid
Okay.
that my mom really wanted me to go off to college, and she wanted me to do well in school and things like that. And I wasn't really feeling the support that I thought that was going to help me with that. And I kind of wanted to do my own thing. And after a while, I said, there's one of two ways I can go here. I can cave and do what she's asking and do really well in school, or I can do my own thing and make her get off my back by failing miserably in school.
Oh, no.
I took the latter option.
Okay, fair enough. Everybody has a path.
Yeah. So I barely graduated from high school. I went to Paul VI. I was fortunate, even though we didn't have much means as a kid. The one thing that my mom invested heavily in was our education. So she worked a lot just to pay for our education, and it paid off. And it was one of the things I really appreciate, the sacrifice my mom made for that. So. I went and got a decent education, normal high school experience for the most part, and then it was my senior year. I showed my daughter my report card was so bad.
You still have it.
I actually got an F in physics,
Okay.
which I love physics. It was all, again, I didn't like the teacher.
Were you just bored?
I was bored a little bit, but it was more that the teacher was very authoritarian, and I didn't do well with it.
Yeah.
So again, I tried to piss off the teacher, and
Didn't like an authority
I
figure.
got a question with this plan. So you understand that you get held back, or was that registering that you're going to be stuck there? Like you're keeping yourself more into that situation.
So it was one of the situations. I thought I was doing just enough to pass the class.
Okay.
And it turned
The
out
F was a surprise for you?
the F was a surprise. So yeah,
They send progress reports.
yeah.
I might have taken one or two of those out of the mail. My parents already know that, so
oh, now you're saying it on the air.
well, you know.
So it was pretty brutal, and it was so bad that I have a twin brother. I mentioned that he applied to Rowan, got in.
How was his grade? What was his perspective, by the way? Was he doing a lot better than you? I hope.
At the time, he was doing really well in school.
Okay.
And he actually ended up coming to Rowan and majoring in theater. So he was actually here at Bozarth a lot. I, on the other hand, didn't even apply to any colleges because I was pretty much expecting to either not go to college at that point, or I would just go to called Paul VII at the time, which was Camden County.
Okay.
So
So,
so I did that. I went to Camden County. I changed my major 3 times while I was there.
what were you experimenting with? What
So
kind of major?
first it was music first, then it was electromechanical engineering,
Okay.
and then it went to graphic design,
You were all over the map.
all over the map.
Okay.
And then finally, I decided I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to start giving a crap again.
Okay.
And I decided to transfer out of Camden County to Gloucester County instead.
Okay.
I changed my major for the 4th time to computer science.
Wow.
I did my 2 years of computer science. I got my associates from Gloucester because I knew that if I got my associates there, I could pick one of the New Jersey schools that would have to take me. They wouldn't take all my credits, but they'd have to take me. So I was like, okay, sweet. So I used that and I transferred to Rowan. They brought me in as a junior. It took all my credits, but only applied like 80% towards my major. So I had to take some more classes to kind of make up the difference. But I was done here in 2 years. I made Dean's List by the time I was done.
Wow.
It's good to see you
It's a
use your
good
powers
turnaround.
for good.
Yeah.
I mean,
What was the impetus for the turnaround?
So it was a multitude of things. I think that it was a lot of it was my wife at the time, and I think some of the people I started to hang out with. I realized I was tired of just towing the line this way, and I really didn't have any confidence in myself. So I think that when my wife came along at the right time, and some of the friends I was out of the house at that point. I was like I had just turned like 21 at that point.
Okay.
And it was like, I'm ready to go try things and actually believe in myself. So when that started to happen, I started to really say, I'm just going to do things my own way. I've been doing it that way anyhow, but why not apply them to seeing if
Positive
I can.
ways,
Yeah, in a
right?
positive way. So I started to turn that angst into something more positive. And that's when I went hard charge into my education. And I realized that especially the students and the professors I met at Rowan, that was a big shift. When I came here, just getting here was a challenge. But once I came here, all those students that I was working with, they were all these people that had really valued their education for so long. And a lot of them also had come from immigrant backgrounds. And so they were able they had a lot of the similar like values that I was
You're like a
raised with.
first gen student, so you were kind of exploring it on your own. But you have teenagers now.
Yep.
So do you use your story like as inspiration for them to go to college, or do you not tell them
No,
about your rebellion?
No, so at first, I didn't really talk about it much. I've told them about it though, and they're very familiar and they know now, and I think that maybe in some ways they feel some pride about that. I'm not sure, but I know my daughter likes to use it as an excuse now when she doesn't do something very well. She's like, "Well, Dad did." my wife looks at me with this death look.
Yeah, she's like, "Well, I didn't
She's
tell
like,
her."
you know, you couldn't have just done things the traditional way. I'm like, no, this is not me.
Do they have that same spirit, your daughter?
My daughter is very much like me in that regard. Yeah,
She's your oldest. Okay.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where the more you tell her she can't do it, the more she's going to go do it, right? And the more you try to tell her what to do, the less she's gonna kind of listen to you.
It's a little independent spirit.
Yeah, she's better than me. Like I was at a point where I think for me it is like self-destructive, you know, where she seems to have a lot more of a level head than I do. I'm a little more hot-headed.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Now, was your brothers here at the same time when you were here, or that overlap didn't happen because of all your?
Yeah, so the overlap didn't actually. It was funny. There was a small place in the bottom of the student center. It's called the Marketplace.
Oh, sure. I was always on Marketplace.
Yeah, well, I worked stocking shelves in the Marketplace.
All right.
And my grandmother worked in the cafeteria.
Oh, can I help?
So she was much older, yeah. And so I was actually working in the Marketplace while my brother was going to school here. So students would come in and think I was him.
Oh, yeah.
And I got tired of saying I'm not him. I would just start pretending to be him. I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I saw your class. And I would just tell them, like, you know, like, hey, it's me, Joe. I'm like, hey, Joe, I recognize you. And then,
That's cool.
And then I would tell them, like, hey, some guy named Joe came into the store today and he said he was looking for you. Said something about, you know, this project. So you might want to say hi to him.
So did you go like full on in? Like once you decided and you got in, you were like, yep, this is my place. You studied computer science.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get real involved?
Yeah, so I got as involved as I could be. I always worked. I was always working at like at least 30 hours while I was coming here. And that was, my parents ended up having their own business after a little while. Like my mom and my stepdad moved away to Colorado my senior year.
Okay.
And then they came back about a year later. My mom, I guess, didn't want to be gone anymore. We had lived with my grandmom for a little while. And so it's kind of a big mess. But by the time they moved back, they decided they want to start their own company.
What was it?
It was like an architectural and design firm. They would work like doing like construction. So I started working with them as like a little side hustle while I was going to school, and ended up doing that for a little while. That was interesting, but it got me a chance to meet some electrical engineers, which is what made me change my major out of electrical engineering at the time, or electromechanical engineering.
What was the itch for the other majors? Like, were you RC?
So that's the thing. It's like a lot of people think about engineering as very scientific and analytical, right? And it is, but I look at it more as like engineering is invention, right? It's discovering new ways to do things, and it's a very creative process for me. And I think that people have kind of two core philosophies. I think it's like either your one side is very detailed and the other side is very kind of big picture, and I like to kind of ride the line right down the middle. I like being able to have the ability to kind of swim between both spaces. That's always something I've struggled with because I'm a physical kind of guy. I like doing physical things, and I like, you know, running, jumping, exercising. But at the same time, I like geeking out on, like last night I'm sitting in an airport with my son, and we're calculating the distance based off of the speed and the flight of the elevation of the flight. I love that kind of stuff. I could get stuck in it
just
for
like, when
hours.
are they getting the snacks?
Yeah.
Am I going to get a snack on this flight, or is it not long
I would
enough?
just, how many Lorna Doones can I house between Key West and, Philly? That's what I'm worried about.
This is very random, but did you fly right into Key West, or did you take that long
No,
drive?
my wife is a nonstop kind of flyer.
Good.
She don't like to fly, so
Yeah.
so it's to Key West and back.
Okay, perfect. Because I know there's like, you can fly into another area, then there's like this beautiful water bridge that you can take, but it's like kind of a drive. But we flew into Key West. I was just curious because I don't know anybody that's actually taken that drive. All right, back to Rowan. All right. enough about Key West.
So your dean's listing it now after the market basket here, I think.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so that was the kind of, again, and right back when I was done, so I finished, and I had no connections, I had no contacts, I had no nothing. It was 2005, which I tell everyone I officially graduated in 05, but for my own ego state, I was all done my classes in 04. Because once you go to 05,
and we'll give it to you.
At 05, it's like 8 years to get my undergrad, and usually they call them doctors. You know,
Yeah, that's okay.
Not me. Yeah.
You did it.
I went out. Like I said, I had done no internships. We had nothing, and so I really started just hitting the street, like just throwing my resume out all over the place. I was all over Monster. I was all over yeah, like all these different platforms at the time, Dice and things like that.
I didn't even know about that one.
Dice was specific for tech.
Okay.
I learned about that after the
RTF
first
here,
job.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so yeah, I threw the resume everywhere, and I was starting to get. Actually, I got nothing at first, and I was like, "What's going on?" And I had friends that were in class that were like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting calls and interviews." I'm like, these guys have the same experience that I do. What is going on? So I also look at their resumes and I realized, oh, I did this all wrong. Which I got a whole thing on resumes I could go into, but I changed my resume around, started to get some phone calls. It took me about 3 months to land my first job. From there, I started doing what came natural to me. I did 1 year at one place, and then I did 6-month contracts, 3 months, 18-month contracts. I started bouncing around to various different places and industries. All the things that I could do to find whatever challenges possible to just ramp up my skill set as quickly as possible.
Smart.
I knew I had to kind of make up for lost time, and I had goals in my head. They were all stupid, young goals. I had a dollar amount of how much money I wanted to make by the 5-year mark, and I hit it by the 3-year mark.
All right.
Wow.
So I was happy about that, but then I hit a
Then you're like, what
long
now?
stagnation period of, well, now what? It's like when you grow up kind of broke, the only thing that you think about is not being broke.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you have that, then you start saying, well, what am I doing? Like, what do I really want to get into? And 10 years went by, still nothing. I told myself, actually, when I graduated Rowan, I was like, as long as I don't end up at a bank, I'll be happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
but you-
3 years out of it, and the Bank of America.
What was your hope? Like, what was your hope and dream there? Like when you're coming out of Rowan, like if you had an ideal job coming out of Rowan, what was it going to be?
So that's something I still struggle with to this day. Like I said, for me, I think it's really important to have passion projects. I tend to find that I find things to get passionate about for a while, and some people have like a long-term vision. I've got some friends who knew that they've wanted to do since they were little kids, and that's their dream. But for me, it's not having that, I think, is what my dream is. I don't really want to be like, I love being an engineer, period. As long as I'm getting challenged and having, fun with people that I'm with, then I'm excited to do any of the work. But I can pretty much guarantee you that any job that I ever have is never going to be permanent. I mean, I've been at Microsoft now for 5 years, and I've already had 2 jobs there. I know Xbox is not going to be where I end. I do like Xbox a lot. I'm not finding the places that are much better, but I just know me. Eventually, I'm going to want to try something
Gonna get
different.
a little itch.
Yeah.
So you did wind up getting your master's, right?
Yep, I got my master's. So I worked for 10 years in industry, and I ended up getting to a place called Susquehanna International Group over in Philly. Well, technically it's Conshohocken, but it's basically Philly. And they had this program where they would pay for education. So that was like, okay, cool. If I want to go back for my master's, that's fine. Well, a buddy of mine from down in Georgia, he knew I wanted to go for my master's, and he said, hey, Georgia Tech's got this great online program, and it's a lot cheaper right now because it's not fully done.
Okay.
So I said, well, how much? He's like, $10,000, dude, for a master's. And I was like, well, he said, you got to get in. So I put my stuff together. I applied, and I thought there's no way in hell that I'm ever going to get into this place, because there's a whole story about Georgia Tech that I could tell you about here in a second. But I ended up doing it. I applied. I got in, and then my other friend said to me, great, now all you got to do is finish. And now the easy part.
One step at a time.
Yeah. So I finished, and I got that done. But it was 10 years after being in industry. In industry for 10 years. And I graduated, got that. And it was really, for me, it was a big milestone, because like I said before, I've always had these issues kind of coming up with, like, feeling worthy or worth the next step. So getting a chance to work at SIG, where SIG it was ranked #1 financial services company to work for in 2013 when I was working there by Forbes. And I was just impressed that it even hired me. I was like, holy crap, these guys actually hired me, because I'd heard from all of my friends who tried to get in there, and they couldn't. So being around those people, they're all ex-Google employees, ex-Microsoft, ex-Amazon. Like, they've all been to their places, and I was working with them, and I knew that, hey, I could carry myself here. I could talk to them. They're speaking the same language. and they've got similar experience to me, and there's nothing foreign here. Everything is understandable. So immediately I took if I can do it here, then I can work at Google too, right? And that's what allowed me to believe that I could actually apply at Georgia Tech. Once I got it done, it felt like, hey, there's another notch on my belt. And the reason why it was so important to me was, as a little kid, my stepdad, he traveled quite a bit, and my mom as well, but he went to a trip to Georgia, and he came back because I played football as a kid, and he came back with 2 jerseys from Georgia Tech. And I remember him saying, hey, I got you these jerseys as a souvenir from Georgia Tech. And I said, oh, what's Georgia Tech? And he's like, oh, it's this phenomenal engineering school that's down in Georgia. If you're lucky, maybe one day you can go there. And I just laughed at him at the time. And I was like, yeah, right. Because I knew that my schooling was terrible. It was a bit serendipitous that, this came up. I was able to do it. And I asked my stepdad to come to commencement with me. But he passed away the month before.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I ended up having to go pretty much by myself. My father actually flew in, which was cool.
Yeah.
And it was nice to be able to do that, but it was tough. It was really tough to kind of get through it.
Yeah, that's really hard.
But after I graduated, the gift that he got me with my mom came in, and it was a plaque to hold the degree in.
Yeah.
And said the school name or anything like that from him. So it was kind of cool.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is gonna cry. I'm gonna
No,
easily verklempt.
you should have told that story, because now we're going to lose the other co-host now for the rest of the show here. So at this point, your mom's got to be, if we're tracking mom here on this whole journey of yours, where you were this
She's like, what?
just hot mess express growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And now she sees you getting a master's degree at Georgia. She's got to be pretty thrilled with where you're going.
Yeah.
And now your brother looks like the...
Yeah. No.
Oh, leave the brother out of it. He's done nothing wrong.
Yeah. It's one of these things where, like, it's hard to say. Like I said, my relationship with my mom has always been a bit tumultuous. So I do believe that she's proud, and she shows it. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, she's like from Italy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's the Italians are a little tough. I got some Italians in my
Yeah,
blood.
it can be. It can be.
Yeah. And the different culture. So it's like they're bringing, first gen, you're a first gen.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's a big difference. So probably took quite a bit for her to get used to what that was going to look like here and adjust.
Oh yeah, there's lots of things that she had to adjust from. And my grandfather was really old school. My grandmom too. They're very traditional.
Yeah.
He was a barber, and it was
cool.
His way. There was a highway. His way or the highway, and it was pretty much how she grew up. Right. So it was cool.
You graduate from Georgia Tech, and you have some pretty your jobs and how they overlap with major like economic events
funny. Yeah.
is kind of wild. So walk us through some of the big hits so people can kind of hear exactly your poor timing.
Yeah. So
or excellent timing.
So I actually started working at Bank of America as a contractor in 2007, and then started there full time in 2008. Yes. During the market.
All right. Yep. Let's everybody keep track at home for this. All right. So we got the financial crisis.
Yeah. Of 2008.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah. I was there for that. And then I left Bank of America, and I was at SIG again. It was like 2012. There was another small crash. I was there when President Trump made his announcement, which is when you're on Wall Street, like
anytime a presidential announcement gets made on Wall Street, it's probably
they were going nuts. I was on the trade floor at SIG, so it was it was a madhouse when that all happened.
Love that.
And then let's see. I mean, I have to kind of remember some of the events, but then when I came to Microsoft, there is right now there's the cloud boom that's been taking off. I've been a part of that. I was actually at Bank of America doing some work with Microsoft at the time when they were kind of beginning to understand what Azure was going to look like, which was their cloud solution. So they were experimenting with some of their ideas with Bank of America. So when I started working in Azure later, when I got to Microsoft, I was like, wow, this looks oddly familiar. So it's kind of funny. It's funny to see some of the stuff out there. So then, I was at Microsoft during the cloud kind of wars here that are happening. Now the AI thing is becoming a thing. I was actually working for the CDC back in 2020 when the pandemic broke out.
Oh, that thing?
What were you doing for the CDC?
So when I first started at Microsoft, I was doing some consulting work for them.
Okay.
So I worked for Microsoft as a consultant, and I did contracts for military because I ended up. I can get into that too, but anyway, so I ended up landing a good job at the CDC because I hold a clearance.
Okay.
I got a job at the CDC. We're doing their inventory management of all of their toxic agents. that are like all over, they're keeping track of toxic agents. And it just,
know that was a thing.
Yeah. It's very much a thing, like, because certain laboratories can't hold things for too long. They have limitations on who needs what. So if it's something's moved from this location to that location, they want to know exactly where it is, how much of it was there, if any was lost. Sometimes
Did
things
they
like
lose
that.
track of all those things when COVID happened?
No.
Like, oh my gosh, forget that. We got to worry about this pandemic.
No, thankfully, like, no, there was the people going in and taking care of all this stuff. A lot of times they would like lock stuff down, situations like that. So it wasn't like things were going anywhere anyway. But yeah, so it was kind of interesting. Like I said, now with the AI stuff that's happening, I'm seeing that at Xbox. I was here at Xbox during the ABK acquisition, which is Activision Blizzard King. It's big studios that were being purchased and brought in. So and when I was at the Bank of America, where there's all these acquisitions that were happening countrywide and stuff. So I've definitely had a chance to see a lot of weird events happen over the years.
Would you say of good luck or bad luck? Like it's
I kind of like that, and I'm right now too. I'm like halfway through my career. I'm like, there's still a whole lot of other things.
It's scary. What else can we handle? I don't know.
I feel like you like chaos.
I do.
You thrive when it gets crazy. You thrive when it gets nuts. You like that.
Yeah. So it's something that I've always done well with. When stuff is going insane, I tend to lock down. I do better under those stressful situations.
So if the job's going too well, you're probably getting bored.
That's pretty much what happens. Yeah. When things start becoming routine, that's when I start sniffing around for something else. Yeah.
Tell us about what you do at Xbox.
So at Xbox, I'm on the platforms team there. I'm a senior software engineer. And we basically build all of the components and the platforms to allow game studios to run their games in our environment. We do console, we do online. Our whole team. We also handle the like all the backend services that are shared for different things. The portion of the GDK that we cover, so that game studios can write games that will run. Cloud-based computing. Right now, I'm actually working on the mobile stuff right now that we're getting ready to bring to market. So,
do you get to work from home?
I do.
And you're doing computer science, right? So
I get to.
You should be able to do that anyway,
you get distracted in the code. You're like, "What's that?" And then the code goes in wrong as you're typing in, and everything goes wonky.
Yeah,
it's kind of wild. I'm trying to get. So I'm not a gamer at all. I did during the
Me
pandemic.
neither, which is kind of funny.
That is wild.
Yeah, like that's the one thing that I think that a lot of people seem to think. Everybody there, they're really into gaming, and that's really cool. And I love that they're super passionate about what they're doing. But I'm not. Yeah. I'm like an anti-gamer. Like I don't really. I would rather my kids go out and do something outside. Yeah. I feel like I'm making a product or working on an industry that is kind of keeping kids inside more. But at the same time, initially it's how I really felt about it. I'm like, man, how did I end up here? I knew why I came, but it was like, I got to find a way to kind of reconcile some of this. So I got a chance to talk to some of the other people that were there, and they were like, hey, Dan, look, you got to understand something. Like, my dad and I bond when we game. And like, we hear stories all the time about people who are, paraplegics who are stuck at home, and they have this is a source of entertainment like anything else.
Or more introverted. I think we talked about it on one of the previous episodes where we have now the Nerd Street Gaming here on campus, and there's a club for that. Mm-hmm. And students who normally would not be so outward facing or extroverted to go meet new friends are finding friends in the same space where, those other introverts are playing. Yeah,
absolutely. And that was why I came to Xbox, because originally it was before the AI bomb got dropped on all of us. AI had been around forever, and I've got a lot of experience actually with education in AI, but they hadn't dropped any large language models like this, not a generative.
I was going to ask you that.
How's it impacting your?
But I guess my thing is if everybody says this AI's been around forever, for the layman's, for people like us, right? I know Jess knows AI very well, but for someone like me.
Thanks for not calling me a layman.
Okay. How did this
layperson?
How did this all of a sudden ramp up? Like what turned this corner where all of a sudden AI is the buzzword?
So the thing is like AI has been a buzzword for a while, and everyone was trying to use it. The problem is I would tell a lot of when I was doing consulting work, we would go on the job and they'd be like, we want to use AI, push more AI. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, we used AI at SIG because in order to use AI, you need large amounts of historical data, because you need to run analysis on the data that you have to find the trends, to find the patterns, and to make the associations and things, especially when you're talking about neural networks. And the problem is that most companies don't keep that kind of information. The only ones that really do, because they're required to by law, are financial institutions. Like SIG had a history of all the stuff they've ever done because they're required to. So when you do that, you can run algorithms across to find patterns. You can use models to predict what's going to happen in the future and to make decisions. So that type of AI is what was like most predominant. Like neural networks hadn't really become. There was always something people saw real potential value in, but training those things would take large amounts of data. So when now with AI back in November of 2022, I think it was, OpenAI dropped their general AI, which means that basically what they found was they took a bunch of data all over the internet and they used it to train this chatbot, basically on general information.
I get this now.
Yeah.
Now you getting this now?
Yeah.
So the thing is
But it's
like
a little scary because like not everything on the internet's true. So
yeah, well, and
a lot of stuff.
and
on
that's
the
why you
internet's
have
not
things
true.
like it's like hallucinations that happen and it pollutes the like kind of the knowledge base of the thing, right? And one of the issues about neural networks historically has been that you don't always know the connections it's making because it's really hard to look at the network itself. I think now they've made strides in being able to see more about that. But it's one of those things you train and you just say like, is it giving me the right answer that I expected or not? Sometimes it won't. But after you do it enough times, you get like kind of enough of a pool that you're seeing like 99.99% of the time it's right. And that becomes very usable. And because it's generalized, it's like, oh, all of a sudden everyone can leverage this knowledge this way. And that's why it became so hot back in November. Yeah.
So a lot of people are scared that AI is just going to take jobs, but I feel like you're still going to need humans to kind of sort through everything and right? Like,
yeah, I tell everyone, it's like, look, every time in the 20 years I've been doing this, something new hits the market. There's always like you get hit with something, right? And then it has to adjust. Like the funny thing is like we've got this new tech, this superpower of AI, and as far as I can tell, the best cases I've seen so far is it's a chatbot or a little bit more of a search engine. Like there's got to be a better use case out there. And right now I feel like we're in that period where we're waiting for someone to come up with a really good use case for AI. And once they do, like Pandora's box, it'll blow open like a whole new type of way of working with it. But it takes some ingenuity. It takes some creativity. That's where the creativity comes in because everyone right now sees it as, oh, it's this chatbot. I can talk to it. It can give me information. Well, that's great, but what else can it do? How can I twist it around and make it useful in other ways? Then all of a sudden people will say, oh, you can do that with this too? And then all of a sudden the ideas start really flowing. The same thing happened with everything else that we've ever really kind of had come through. It's like late to market type of thing. So
it's definitely going to change education, right? So it's going to change the way we do things here. But
I think it has the potential to change a lot of things.
Yeah.
It all depends on adoption. I mean, the reality is that human beings don't really want too much change too quick. So a lot of times it's about, how long does it take for that to permeate its way into the market?
So when you're not AIing and helping the computers win, it appears you love Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah. I've been doing that now for about 5 years. I'm a little older. I'm 45 now. I started at 40.
Yo, careful.
Yeah. well, for
no, I'll take older.
For jiu-jitsu, I am mature in my years, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, Rob,
All right.
could you see yourself doing jujitsu?
No.
You can't even say it.
Yeah. Well, I paid the price for some of it. But yeah, I really love doing that. I go to McHugh Jiu-Jitsu over in Marlton. Really, the name kind of fooled me the first time. I'm like, McHugh, what would a
nice
guy named
Irish.
McHugh?
Yeah,
Nice Irish name like that. But dude, just phenomenal. Really great school, and they've done some great things locally. It was a really young school. I got in pretty early, and it's just a super great vibe. It reminds me a lot of like I played football growing up. Reminds me a lot of that camaraderie I got back then. It's amazing. We've got tons of kids, tons of women, men. It doesn't matter, and it's just neat to see a tribe of people that are similar in that regard. They like to. And the strategy of it is fun. It makes me think, but it's physical. So it
There's
really
your decompression right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, just kind of wind down. And I got to ask. We don't usually go there.
What?
Got to ask about the tat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's the 90s, and
It's the 90s.
we'll just start.
The
We'll just start there. It was the 90s, and Chinese symbols were the thing.
No, but so what does it mean though?
Oh, so this one means horse. I was born in the year of the horse.
Okay, that's cool.
And my mom got me. She used to travel a lot. She traveled to China, and she came back with that symbol. And that's why I did some more research. On, the year of the horse. I'm okay, cool. So it was my way of putting like a mom tattoo on me without actually saying mom.
Like in a heart?
Yeah.
I want my boys to have that one.
So
Wait, what year were you born?
I was born in 78.
I'm a horse then.
Well,
Wait, I get the whole year?
Isn't it
every
also
12.
like depend on the month you were born too?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm not a horse
You need
then.
you need to look into it.
right.
You probably have to put your exact birth date in, and then it'll give you like
That's
the
why I
year
wear
of the
long sleeves just
whatever.
in case the horse didn't work out. I got to cover it up.
yeah.
It's probably aligns with the Chinese New Year, which I forget when that is, but it's out of alignment with our.
Yeah, so you can't just take it for
All right.
you're gonna have to do your own research. Put it into ChatGPT.
I'll cancel that appointment tonight.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get a tattoo tonight. Is it your own?
Cancel it.
How many tattoos do you have?
I got this one. I've got one up on my arm.
Okay.
It's as all
That
old
was
school.
the 90s? No.
It was the 90s. This my wife will freaking kill me. So she knows.
Wait, she doesn't know you have a tattoo?
No,
Okay.
yeah,
I was
she
just
knows.
wondering.
This particular one was actually a cover up of an ex girlfriend's name.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotta do what you
All
gotta
right.
do. Well,
Yeah.
where's her name tattooed on you?
No,
Just smartened up after that?
I did that one for a reason, and I knew damn well it was a good chance I was trying to break up with the girl actually at the time.
All
When
right,
you
good.
got the tattoo, you
When I
were
got
trying
the
to.
tattoo, yeah.
Oh, that's a backwards way of trying to break up. See
Again,
why girls are confused?
again, I wasn't in my right mind
Fair
right,
enough, fair
at
enough.
the time.
Yeah, that's all right.
But it just shows a little bit about my way of thinking. I knew about like tattoo lore, where it's like you get a girl's name tattooed on
Yeah,
you,
to scare her.
you're gonna break up.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I'll tattoo
lore.
myself. Good luck with that. And at the same time, I also told her like I knew it was a way of showing like outwardly that that I actually cared about her, that she could never deny that.
Yeah.
So it was
Right before you broke.
it was
her heart.
toxic and stupid.
Yeah, teenagers, man,
but
we're
yeah.
a mess.
Yeah. Again, it was the 90s.
Hey, well, as long as your kids understand what's going on, right?
Yeah.
They understand what
Yeah, I don't know if my kids know that story very well.
Okay, well,
but,
don't let them listen to the podcast. 'Cause we're definitely keeping that in.
Yeah, we absolutely.
into the delusional mind of a psychotic.
We can
yeah.
transition though. But so speaking of kids, you mentor kids,
Yeah, believe it or not, I actually do now.
which is kind of wild considering your background and the story you've told us.
But
where
that's the best mentor because you could be like, I've been there.
you were there.
That was kind of the thing I liked. It was one of the things I think I learned over all this disaster, and what I tell a lot of the students here is like, look, man, like life is long, it's hard at times, but there's ups and there's downs. There's really not much that time won't handle. It's like if you just keep chugging along and making better decisions than you did yesterday, then you'll find yourself in a better position. And if you keep making worse decisions, you'll find yourself in the worst position. But it really is. It's the long game. Even now, like I said, I'm 45. Like I realize there's still a lot of life left to live. And as long as I'm around to live it, God knows where I'll be in 10 years from now. So I'm just kind of riding the waves as they come. Yeah. And that's one thing I like about mentoring is that I get opportunity to share with these students that, it's so funny. I tell my daughter and my son, I'm like, look, my upbringing was rough, but I would never trade my childhood for yours because they're so full of anxiety and like school. And my wife's a teacher, or she was for like 15 years. But so education is very important in our home, and I want them to realize that. But I try to emphasize to them, like, look, it's not the only thing though. It's simulated life, right? Like they're supposed to be teaching you and so that you understand that here are some basic knowledge, but your real life, when you start living it outside of school, like you could do it today and it's okay if you make those mistakes. You're not going to die. I tell my daughter and my son, it's like, look, there's a few things you can do that are irreversible. Don't do those.
Yeah.
Stay
All
from
right.
A, B, and C.
And if you get a tattoo, that's reversible.
Other than that, most things we can figure out.
Yeah, school of hard knocks.
Yeah, and the thing is it's like learning for me, it always comes through pain. Like pain is learning, and that's the thing. It's like if you don't have any pain, you're not going to learn anything. And that's the thing. It's like you got to be willing to throw yourself into the fire and feel more pain because that's when you're
Growth
really pushing
happens,
yourself.
too.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes like right now, like just 2 weeks ago, I got reorged out of nowhere. Like I got kind of picked to be reorged to this one team. And I was not happy. I'm still not happy about it. But I keep telling myself, like, look, the amount of pain I'm feeling right now is the amount of growth that I'm likely going to get out of this, which means should be a lot. Yeah. I'm really hating this move.
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. It's really positive. You've come such a long way, so I feel like that really stands out for you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope that that's like the message that like my kids see, and hopefully the students that I mentor, and I'm actually trying to do a thing. I'm thinking about doing some coaching. Someone told me I should do it, so I'm thinking I might do that, which would be kind of nice, more hands-on, kind of one-on-one. But I like the idea of if I can help people get over the fact, like themselves half the time, it's nice. A lot of times, like I said before, like all my challenges were all in my own head. Like I didn't think I could go to Google. I didn't think I could be at Xbox. It wasn't until I actually started to step closer and closer to that fire that I realized it doesn't really burn so bad. And if I keep going, eventually, you know, you're kind of in it, and you're like another ring closer to where you want to be. It's kind of funny. When I got the Xbox, I told my friends, I was like, well, I just climbed the next Everest that I had for myself. The first one was the money, and now it's this. Mm-hmm. And now here I am again. I'm like, what do I do now? Like, am I going to keep, because all the jobs I would get from here, they're all kind of lateral moves.
Yeah. Is that tough for you, knowing that, like, what's next? Like, do you struggle with, like, what's next? Where am I going to be?
Yeah.
What's my next move?
Yeah. Like, you know, and I'm experimenting with a lot of different things. I'm making some YouTube videos and stuff. I like to build in my garage. I'm a big tinkerer. I love inventing, and to me, engineering it's more of
why you have the TikTok we discussed before the interview?
Some of it, yeah, okay. Yeah, some of it. And it's more just to kind of like keep track of like the tech that's out there, that stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it just, I love to experiment with this stuff, and like I said, engineering as a philosophy. Like I said, I love looking at it as you're discovering new ways to use things. It's an inventive process. It's so much more creative. The data informs what we do, but at the end of the day, you make a decision. A lot of the times I make a decision for the software that we build. All engineers will tell you this. You make a decision that seems the best at the time, because you have options, but you're picking the one that you think is going to be best over the long term, and you're using data to help inform you. But at the end of the day, you're making a call. Okay, we're going to do this, and that's it.
With any life decision, right?
It's
not just engineering.
Yep,
Yeah, anything that you do.
Yeah. So it's really about philosophy, not so much about analysis.
Rob, are you a gamer?
You know, I was back in the day when I was a kid, but not any longer. I can't do it.
You can't do it?
No, I can, but
are your knees hurting too much to game?
No. I don't have time for it anymore.
We all have the same amount of time in a day.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding. Who
Somebody
knows
call
that?
the burn unit.
You know where that came from, right?
I do, yes.
Okay.
I know.
Let's see if he hears it and knows it's about him.
Yeah. No, I just can't. I just don't have the go for it anymore. But
it's kind of cool, though, that there's people working on, like, you're not a gamer, but you're still, like, making it all happen seamlessly for those that are able to do it. Dan was so fun.
yeah, and he explained AI to us, which is good, because I think that's the fact that it's been around for many, many years, but it just ramped up. I think it was cool that he's finally exposing that. But no, Dan was great.
Dan was great. Also, we've had a little bit of a run here with engineers. Maybe not in airing order, but in interview order, we've had we actually have another engineer coming up. It's like all the engineers came out of the woodwork at one time. How did that happen?
I don't know. Maybe they'll have this inside story they want to tell that they just never got out.
I love it. Well, we're excited to share the story of all of our alums, our engineers, our business majors. If you're an alum and you want to be on the show, you can visit go.rowan.edu/BTBG guest, and you can apply. And we'd love to hear your story.
You've been listening to Beyond the Brown and Gold on Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM. You can find more episodes on your favorite podcasting platforms by searching for Beyond the Brown and Gold or Rowan Radio On Demand.